Arm's Length, Episode 5. Gabrielle had ordered room service, wanting to sit down and make a proper plan as to what her next movements would be. She had texted Paul, Sandra, her father, and Alex to inform them of her safe arrival, once again thanking the latter for his very thoughtful gesture of putting his jet at her disposal and refusing to accept payment. So she had made a generous donation to his mother's foundation. Her aunt had not yet written her back. It had been 2 days and Gabrielle had resent the email just in case. Her father had told her that her mother had been a French teacher and she had gotten the address of the school from an online search and was happy to know that it was still operative. She also had the address of the house they had lived in, so we'll tackle those two things first as she waited for her aunt to reply. There still had been no word from Nnamdi, and she did not want to bother Alex. So we'll wait a bit to ask him again about the location the mysterious email had been sent from. The hotel had cars that could be rented out by guests with the option of a chauffeur. She chose the latter, and after lunch, set out to her old home. Looking through the window as they passed through the streets, she tried to see if the places felt familiar, but she was getting nothing. It had probably gone through a lot of changes in 27 years. "Madame, this is the address," the man behind the wheel told her as he observed her through the rear-view mirror. "Thank you. Please wait for me. I told them at the hotel that I would need you for most of the evening." "Not a problem, madame." She got out slowly from the car that was parked at the other side of the street from the house and stood for a moment, looking at it. 2 roofs could be seen above the gate, leading to the exterior. The gate was metallic and the wall surrounding the property was made of concrete blocks, which at some point had been colored white, but with the passage of time and too many rainy seasons had taken on a greenish-brownish hue. The branches of a huge tree could be seen from the outside of the house, and out of the blue a memory hit her, leaving her momentarily breathless. She remembered climbing that tree and falling down, her knees and elbows scrapped, the sting of the alcohol in the cotton wool, and a woman soothing her. For a moment, it felt like time stood still. She could not remember the face of the woman, but it was not her mother, though she did not know why she was so certain of that. There was a bell, so she pressed it. Approaching footsteps preceded a young man looking at her through the opening between the 2 doors of the metal gate. "Yes? Who are you looking for?" "Good afternoon. I'd like to speak to any of the occupants of both houses." "Madame, you have to give me a name of who you're looking for. I can't just let anyone in," the man replied. "I know it sounds strange. Look, here's my card. I used to live here a very long time ago. Please, go and ask if anyone will see me." She pushed her calling card through the opening, and after a moment of hesitation, the young man took it and disappeared. She wondered if he would come back. A few minutes later, she heard the sound of the gate being opened, and a middle-aged woman was standing next to the man. "Good afternoon, madame. I wondered if I could take a moment of your time and ask you a few questions, as I used to live here 27 years ago. It says here that you are Gabrielle Ibrahim. Can I see some form of identification? With everything that one hears on the news, I can't just let anyone in," the woman requested. "Yes, of course. Here's my ID card." The woman took it and studied it, and Gabrielle looked up the few articles online that featured her photograph to reassure her. Only after that did the woman clap her hands and laugh. "Wait till I tell my friends the creator of GI lived here. I can't believe it. I got one of your bags for my last birthday. Not one of the high-end ones though, but I love it. And the clever way you overlapped the initials to form the logo. Monday, take a photograph of us." Without really giving her a choice, the woman put an arm around her as Monday took various photographs, making sure his madame came out in the best possible light as he suggested she pose in different ways. Gabrielle surveyed the place, 2 bungalows joined by their garages. Each house had a front garden, and the common pathway separating them was paved. Ours is the house on the left. My family and I have lived here for 15 years, and the Atafos a little over 6 years. Gabrielle felt a sinking feeling. They had not been there in her time, and so she could not learn anything new. Though obviously one set of occupants could only have arrived after they had vacated the premises. Oh, I was hoping to visit the house I grew up in, and maybe speak to someone that knew my family. I have not visited Benin since then. I was told that back then the landlord was Mr. Amadi. Is he still the owner? Yes, he is, although he's getting on in years. So his son, Osaretin, has taken over the day-to-day running of the business. The woman replied. Would you by any chance have his contact details? Gabrielle asked her. Yes, I do. Would you like to come in and have a seat? No, I am fine here, just looking around. I remember that tree. I fell down from it, the young woman replied as she studied it. Yes, it's quite old. My husband refuses to have it cut down, despite the fact that one of the branches fell and damaged the roof during a heavy storm. I'll be right back with the details. Gabrielle nodded, trying to keep the conversation light to avoid sparking the woman's curiosity. She went towards the tree and ran her hand along its bark. Monday occupied a small security booth near the gate, and she wondered how long it had been there. Had they had a security guard too? She could not remember that, and her father hadn't mentioned it. Here you are. I'm sorry I took so long. You can't seem to find things when you're looking for them. This is the real estate office the son of the owner of this place runs. I still can't believe you lived here as a child. Funny the history a house can have. I did wonder about the former tenants as the house was so dirty when we came to see it. The walls were full of stains and dirt. The lady that was showing us around must have seen the fright on my face as she quickly told me the house would be painted before being rented out again. The kitchen had burn stains on the wall and the ceiling. She said the previous tenants had been really messy people and that they lived here for 12 years, but that the previous ones had been there for 7 and that they'd been very happy with them. A man, his wife, and a little girl. Wait! That was you! She looked at her, marveling, and Gabrielle looked up, trying to blink back the tears, happy that they had been a neat family. For some ridiculous reason, that felt important. Oh, I remember now. The lady told us that your father left rather abruptly. Apparently, he lost his wife. I am so sorry for your loss. You were so young. But look how far you've come. Your mother would have been so proud of you. G.I., one of our most esteemed national treasures. You know, if you want to know more about your life here, the neighbors on that side have lived there for over 30 years. The land was theirs and they built the house. I am sure Angela Oko will gladly share some of her memories with you. She's a living encyclopedia. Oh, you poor girl. No wonder you have such an interest in our house. This was the last place your mother lived. I'll escort you there so Angela will receive you well. Monday, before we leave, check that you didn't erase the photographs like you did last time. Your monthly salary will be in danger if you don't send them to me ASAP. Gabrielle found it difficult to keep a straight face as Monday quickly looked at his mobile and made a thumbs-up sign to his boss. She wished the woman would stay behind as her presence could end up hampering her search for information, but she understood that she was providing her with mid-afternoon entertainment and that it would be easier to access the other neighbor's house through her. A security guard let them in after informing them that his madame was home. This was a bungalow before, and they extended it. They had a lot of land, so they were able to do so after applying for the required permits. Not like the house next to theirs, where they built structures that weren't allowed. reported them, and they had to be taken down. The woman, whose name she still did not know, gave her a running commentary as they were led into a living room by a young girl who invited them to sit down. Angela, I know you were watching your series, but I thought you would like to see this young woman. She was your neighbor a long time ago. The heavy-set woman who had walked into the room wearing an Ankara kaftan put on the glasses that had been around her neck, held by a cord, and studied her. Gabrielle? She asked in complete shock. And she nodded, affirming that she was the person in question. Before she could finish nodding, she found herself locked in a tight embrace that literally lifted her off the sofa and floor. Gabrielle! I can't believe it. I often wondered what had become of you and your father. She's Gabrielle Ibrahim. The Gabrielle Ibrahim, the maker of the bag I showed you, the woman that now occupied her former house exclaimed. You only said G.I., Linda. How was I to connect the dots between two letters and a name? I remember you so well. My son Donald and you were very good friends, always getting into trouble, and none of you wanting to say who the culprit was. I had no idea you were that Gabrielle Ibrahim. Donald showed me an interview some time ago, but there was no photograph of you or anything linking you to Benin City. It said you were London trained. The only photographs on the article were of your new collection. We did remember you, as your name is quite unusual. He thought it could be you. I can't believe you are here after so many years. Wait till I tell Donald. Angela, take a photograph and send it to him. That's worth more than 1,000 words. I asked Monday to do the same, Linda suggested. Once again, before she could protest, she found herself sandwiched between both women, and the girl who had shown them in was called to immortalize the moment. What can I offer you? Are you hungry? We have rice, stew, or do you want something more substantial and filling? I am fine, thank you. I just had lunch, Gabrielle said. Something to drink then? You can't come to my house and not have anything. Gabrielle nodded in acceptance, not wanting to insult her hostess, and the young girl was once again summoned. Angela, I have space for food, and I'm also a visitor. The girl was then instructed to get Linda something to eat. How's your dad? We never heard from him again. He promised to write us and let us know how you both were doing. I am so sorry about your mom. Sometimes I think about it. Everything happened so quickly. I went to your house and there I was told she had taken ill. I asked where she was admitted to, so as to visit and take her some food. But before I knew it, she'd been flown to France, and a few days later, she was gone. Those were your father's words. She is gone. I asked about funeral arrangements, but he said the family had taken care of everything and it had been done quickly in France. They buried people the next day there, so I assumed they would have a funeral mass for her here too. I asked as I wanted to attend and pay my respects to the family, say my last goodbye to Sophie, and your father said he would let me know. It was a very difficult period for them. Everything had been so unexpected. The family wanted something really private, so he said they would be very grateful for my respect and discretion. The whole thing really saddened me. Had I known it was the last time I would see her. I had not recovered from that yet when your father brought you one evening to say goodbye shortly after. All three women were quiet, Gabrielle marveling at how her father had given simple and irrefutable explanations to those around him. No one had thought to question the facts presented to them. Sophie was lovely. Your mother was a beautiful soul, ever watchful of you. You were always so neat, your school uniform clean. I remember how Donald would come home all dirty after leaving the house in the morning. It felt like I had gotten a different boy back. But you were always neat. You hated anything staining your clothes. Ha! Your visit has brought back so many memories. Sophie was a great baker. She always had fresh bread and cake at home, and so we were always visiting, of course. Linda nodded in complete understanding, her mouth full of rice as she was doing justice to the plates that had been put in front of her. Did you notice if she was feeling unwell during that period, or anything that could have drawn your attention? Gabrielle asked Angela. She suffered from migraines from time to time, especially when she'd been exposed to sunlight for prolonged periods. But other than that, I kept wondering what kind of illness took her away so quickly. I didn't want to ask your father too many questions. In the days that followed, it felt like I was seeing one of those zombies in those horrible movies they make nowadays. I don't blame him. They always looked so happy together. You could tell how much she loved him. And Linda, Sophie, was a fine woman. Sometimes we would be chatting on the street and the driver of a car would stop to talk to her. But she would quickly show the man in question her ring and say, "Move on, I am married." Sometimes before she would say it, I would look at the unfortunate man and help her say, "Move on, she's married." Nothing like that woman down the street. You know who, Linda, carrying on in such a shameless way once her husband goes out to work in the mornings. She thinks we don't know what she's up to. She shook her head in apparent disgust as Gabrielle strove to direct the conversation to what really interested her. Was there anyone else living here at the time it all happened? I would love to speak to them, to know more about my mother's last days. Let me think. I didn't have a maid then. I remember because I was stressed after the last one left, and I was pregnant, working, and I had Donald and Larry, my husband, to care for. You know, men are like children sometimes, and instead of helping, they create more work. So my sister Nkiru came to help me. She stayed here for a little over a week until I found someone new. If I could have her number, I would be very grateful, the young woman requested. Of course. She lives in Lagos now with her family. Angela walked towards a drawer and took out a pen and paper and then handed it to her. I just keep looking at you and remembering you with your neat pigtails and ribbons. You had so many different hair accessories. I have 3 photographs of your mom. Do you want to see them? Gabrielle nodded, not believing that she could once again put a face to her memories. The photographs were brought out and she could not stop looking at them. That one's on your 7th birthday. Your mom made that cake for you, and we were able to capture you blowing out the candles because you did it so many times. In the picture, her dad was smiling and holding on to her mother's waist. Angela was right. She had been beautiful. This one is with her twin, Elise, was her name. I wrote it here at the back so as not to forget. They were very close and would come visiting quite a lot. I sometimes found it difficult to tell them apart, but your mother had a large birthmark on her shoulder, which only helped when I could see her shoulder. It looked like a map of a country. Don't ask me which country, but that's what it reminded me of. They were always pranking me with that. This last one was here in the garden. You youngsters were running around playing as we adults sat down in the garden. My husband took the photograph. He said it was picture perfect, and it is. Look at the beautiful light the sunset provided. Please, keep them. I've held on to them for so many years, but they deserve to be with you. Gabrielle wiped the tears from her eyes, and both women nodded in understanding. By the way, Gabrielle, there's something I've wanted to ask from the moment I found out who you are. Are you married? Because my Donald is single, and it would be such a romantic story, and he has a good job in a bank in Abuja. She winked at her. Gabrielle found herself crying and laughing at the same time as she held on to the photographs. If only for having them in her hands, the trip had been worth it. Gabrielle gathered her thoughts on the way back to the hotel, replaying the conversation over and over again in her head. The car slowing down made her realize that she was entering the hotel car park, and she handed the driver a tip. Thank you so much, madam. If you need to go anywhere else, just ask for me. My name is Peter, and I am here from Monday to Friday, except when taking out a guest. She smiled in acceptance and went up to her room. She had not looked at her mobile all evening, and when she did, she saw that she had email alerts, and there was a reply from her aunt. She sat down heavily for a moment, her hands shaking as she breathed in and out, trying to steady herself. At that moment, her mobile rang. It was Sandra, probably for an update. Hello, girl. Sorry, it was impossible to call earlier. I've been buried under a caseload of files, going through information for my client's trial. Tell me every single thing you've done today. I haven't even unpacked because as soon as we close this case, I'll be joining you. I went to my former house and it didn't really bring back any memories. I guess that instant recollection you see in movies is done for effect. But I did remember a fall and a woman cleaning me up vigorously. The occupants of the house moved in after we were long gone, so the lady I spoke to couldn't shed any light. But she introduced me to the owner of the house in the next compound, and she did know my parents. Oh, and I just got a reply from Elise. Really? That's what you should have started with. What did she say? Sandra asked. I haven't opened the email yet. I got nervous and then you rang. Open it, and read it aloud. Wait, switching on my laptop, Gabrielle said. So what did this neighbor say? She said my parents were happy, and apparently my mother had admirers. Paul's calling. Let's do a conference call so I don't have to repeat the whole conversation. Gabrielle set it up, and both girls greeted the newcomer. I just wanted to see how things were going. I miss you, Paul said. I miss you too. I was just about to read out a reply to the email I sent to Elise. Who's that? Her mother's twin, Paul. You need to write down these details. They are important, Sandra replied curtly. Here goes. She uses a lot of exclamation marks, which I shall of course not read out. My dearest Gabrielle, I could not believe that I finally got a reply to my emails. I read and reread the text so many times, not fully believing it was from you. I'm sorry, I just got back from France with my mother and was not checking my emails daily. I would love to see you. We both would. You mentioned you would be in Benin. Are you still here? We can come to Lagos. Just tell us where. I'll be looking at my phone constantly to see if there's a reply from you. I still can't believe it. Wow! Finally! Some good news. Did she include her address? Write her telling her you can go tomorrow. I can't believe I'll miss the reunion. Maybe it's a good thing. I do think Gabrielle needs to meet her family in private, Paul said. Don't worry, Sandra. You'll hear word for word what happened. But Paul's right. I don't know what I might find, and they'll probably feel overwhelmed. I'm practically a stranger to them. I've written her to ask if I can drop by tomorrow. Good. This is going well. They must know where your mother is and can link you up with her again, Paul said. I hope so. I just got a reply. She says anytime I want to come by is fine with her, and proposes we meet at her mother's at 12 noon. She's provided an address. This is so nerve-wracking. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep. Well, if you can't, we can have a long-distance chat. I have to pull an all-nighter too, to avoid my client going to jail, who now that he can't hear me, deserves to be locked away for a very long time. But let's see if we can get a deal. Ladies, I have to go now. I have a trip first thing in the morning. I'll call you tomorrow. Good night, darling. Good night, love. Bye, Paul. So tell me about the visit to the neighbors. Oh, I forgot. She gave me 3 photographs of my mother. Let me send them to you via WhatsApp. Gabrielle did so. Oh, she's gorgeous. And look at your dad. And you. Oh, just look at the mini version of you blowing out your birthday candles. I can't believe you're so close to finally finding out the truth. I am so excited for you. I can't stop looking at them. I can finally put a face to her. Let me call my dad before he sleeps to see how he is and also ask him a few questions. Okay, but call me back as soon as you're done. Gabrielle called her father's mobile directly, not wanting to risk Deborah picking up the landline and making up an excuse for not allowing her to speak to him. Although, if for some reason she had his mobile in her possession, her call would run the same fate. She was about to give up when she heard the drowsy voice of her father. Hello, father. How are you feeling? The medication makes me drowsy all the time. I can barely keep my eyes open. How's your trip going? I went by our old house. As expected, the people living there were not there at the same time we were. Yes, the house joined to ours had been vacant for a few months when it happened. There had been a bachelor living there before, and he got transferred to the north and moved. I can't remember his name, her father replied. Gabrielle made a mental note to ask Angela about the man, as she had given her her mobile number too, and told her to contact her if she needed anything. You didn't tell me that there was a woman that had looked after me. There wasn't. We didn't have any domestic workers. I saw a tree that brought back the memory of me falling and a woman cleaning my wounds. There wasn't any... Oh! I remember that fall. Your mother was very upset. She asked you repeatedly not to climb, but apparently the boy you normally played with from next door had told you that you could see the roof of the house from there, and for some reason you decided the site was worth endangering your life for. You got some really ugly scrapes, and yes, you're right. It was just after your mother had suffered a miscarriage. We were able to finally persuade her to get some help, at least for a short while. A woman came for 2 weeks. As soon as your mother was back on her feet, she sent her home and paid her for the whole month. I did not for the life of me understand why she would pay her and not allow her to continue working. What was her name? Gabrielle asked her father. How do you expect me to remember that? It's been 27 years. How did you employ her? Through an agency? An agency? We didn't have those then. Let me think. This was not long before your mother packed up and left. She was a cousin to a fellow French teacher in the school she worked in. Yes, that was it. When he heard what had happened, he told her that his cousin had failed the entrance exam to university and was looking to make some extra money. When she told me, I put my foot down and told her she had to. She was exhausted. Her sister backed me up. I am meeting Elise and her mother tomorrow. I'll ask her. I see. There was silence as her father digested what she had just told him. I also met Angela Oko. Who? A neighbor. Apparently, I played a lot with her son, Donald. She seems very fond of my mother. Why did you tell her she had died? I thought the rest knew she had left, and I was the only one with that version. It felt like an unnecessary risk to take. Do you think I was thinking straight at that point? Everything was upside down and so chaotic. She came in to return a cake plate just when I had told you that your mother had been taken to the hospital, and you were upset. I had to tell her the same story and add details as she kept asking questions the following days. I couldn't risk her son overhearing the truth and telling you. I had to give her a progress report about her health deteriorating and being taken out of the country. I understand. I'll leave you to rest now, Father. Please take care of yourself. Let me know how it goes tomorrow. She hung up and pondered what her father had told her, suddenly feeling sorry for him, as she imagined him coming home to find his house in turmoil. Sandra was waiting for her call. She dialed her number needing to bounce off some ideas with someone. Claire observed her son as he moved his food around the plate, trying to create the illusion that he had eaten part of it. She smiled, remembering how he had done the same thing as a child, particularly when he had not liked what had been put before him, and knowing the option of forfeiting the meal had not been a possibility. "It can't be that you don't like the food. You ordered what was brought for you," she said to Alex. "The food's fine. I'm just not hungry." "Oh! Care to share what's bothering you?" "Why do you think that something's up?" "I'm simply not hungry. It's quite hot today, and all I feel like doing is drinking something cold." "Now I know that something's wrong. When has the heat ever stopped you from eating? Come on, spill." Alex looked lost in thought for a moment as she waited for him to open up, eating as she did so. There was certainly nothing wrong with her food or her appetite, and the problem would still be there whether she ate or not. "So, you imply that I've not been very serious with my sentimental life." "Implied? I believe I was quite clear and direct," his mother stated in a matter-of-fact way. "Mom, fine. We'll go with implied for the sake of hearing the story sometime this century, preferably whilst I'm still alive." That brought a grin to his face. She knew that making light of the matter would encourage him. Alex was not one used to sharing, a trait he had inherited from his late father. "Do you think my lifestyle could make a woman with different values than mine not even want to get to know me?" "Probably. Can you tell me exactly who we're talking about?" "Ah, let me guess. The beautiful and enigmatic Gabrielle Ibrahim." He looked away. She reached out and felt his forehead with the back of her hand. "No, you're not running a fever, which I thought would be a symptom of you being worried about a woman or caring what she thinks about you," Claire Jacobs joked. He shook his head and chuckled. "She got engaged just before she left for Benin." "Were you expecting her not to? Perhaps you thought that she would give it all up and fall at your feet after meeting you." "It has been known to happen. More than once, if I may say so. I don't know what I expected, but not indifference, and not her getting engaged. I did make an effort to get to know her, and for her to get to know me." "Did you tell her you were interested in her?" his mother asked. "Was that not obvious? I mean, why go on dates with someone if you're not interested in something other than friendship?" "Where do I start? For a certain kind of woman, you'd be considered dangerous and not the kind of man to get involved with, or even associate with. You know how they say that good girls like bad boys? Some good girls like good boys. I spoke to her at the event, trying to fathom the type of person she was. And why not, if I could help my only son? I told her about your father and how we met, and she told me about her boyfriend. They met in church. That spoke volumes to me." "Why?" "Because she's someone well-traveled, that has met men from different walks of life. And look at her, she can have her pick. Yet, she's dating someone she met in church, with a normal job. And what he earns can in no way compare to that woman's net worth. It means she's searching for something else, something deeper in the person she wants to spend the rest of her life with, and is not impressed by anything material you can offer her. First of all, because she has it all, and then because she considers other things more important. You can thank me for having you baptized and making sure that you received the other sacraments. It will probably not help your case that you've not stepped into a church in years, except for baptisms, weddings, and funerals." Alex was quiet for a while, thinking about what his mother had just said to him. "So, your advice is that I give up?" For some reason, I can't get her out of my head. My advice is that she's engaged but not married. If you're serious about this woman, then you should give her the chance to see the qualities all those girlfriends of yours never get to see, and then tell her what you feel. Let her decide, because once the priest pronounces them man and wife, there will be nothing you'll be able to do about the situation. You have to ask yourself the reason why you can't stop thinking about her. Is it because she has not swooned and fallen at your feet? Or because you really can't imagine life without her? His mother chuckled and murmured something to the effect that she never thought she would see the day, and he continued moving the food around his plate in silence. That evening, he met up with the boys for a drink, and Nnamdi was running late. He had been really busy with work the last couple of days, and they had not seen him. So, Alex, did you end things on a good note with Gabrielle? Because I've exchanged a few texts with her friend Sandra. She hasn't agreed to go on a date yet, but you could put in a good word for me. You know, the usual. How after you, I'm the most sought-out bachelor, hardworking, charming, CEO of my own law firm. You know the drill, Mark suggested, spotting a cheeky grin. Alex laughed as George protested in indignation. You? Second in line? What was the main criterion used to arrive at that conclusion? Mark, Sandra's off limits, especially if it's simply because she's rebuffed your advances, Alex warned his friend. Nnamdi walked in at that moment and threw himself on the sofa, sighing loudly so everyone would not miss how tired he was. What are you guys arguing about now? George is upset because Mark thinks he has better market value than him, and Mark wants me to help him get into Sandra's good books. You know her, Gabrielle's friend. Well, so you don't bother arguing. According to my wife, none of you are the answer to any woman's prayers. And Mark, forget Sandra. Ngozi told me that she lost her fiancé in a car accident when they were practically at the altar. Should you toy with her feelings, Ngozi will skin you alive, literally. By the way, Alex, I looked into what you sent me. The location's near Benin City, but I can give you a clearer answer in a few days. I'm swamped at the moment, but we'll look some more into it. I sent a message as an undisclosed sender, and I got a message saying that the email no longer existed. Next round's on me. I have to make a phone call, so you guys can order my usual. Alex nodded his thanks to Nnamdi and walked outside away from all the noise. Hi, Gabrielle. I just wanted to give you an update on the email. Nnamdi says it was sent from a location near Benin, and he'll tell me more soon. The email, however, is no longer operative. Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for getting back to me. Have you been able to see anyone? He asked. Yes, I went to my old house, and the official story there is that my mother died. But the best part is that my aunt wrote me back, and I'm meeting her and my grandmother tomorrow. That's great news! It is! I can't believe it still. I don't know what to wear, or if I should take them a gift, or... I think seeing you will be enough for them. They're not going to care what you wear, so just breathe. Don't be nervous. That's easy for you to say. What if they don't want to talk about my mother? Something tells me that after all this time, everyone will want to talk about it. How are you finding the city? I haven't explored much, just been to my former neighborhood, which has probably changed a lot. But the hotel has this very friendly driver, Peter. I've booked him again for tomorrow, and will probably ask him to give me a tour of the city. He's very chatty, so we'll make a perfect tour guide. Let's see how it goes. I am so scared that Paul's right, and that my mother is dead. That's the only explanation that comes to mind when I question why she hasn't looked for me in all these years. I met a woman that knew us from back then, and she said my mother was devoted to me. One can't stop loving overnight or leave a child behind. Maybe she left in a hurry, but with the intention of coming back to get me when she'd settled down. It feels like I'm so close, but have arrived too late. It is, of course, a possibility, but I wouldn't dwell on it until you know for sure. You're just working yourself up for nothing. Just focus on the fact that you're going to meet a part of your family that you've been deprived of for too long. I need to think of something else to distract me from my thoughts. What have you been up to? Out with the boys? Gabrielle asked. We actually are. Just getting a drink after work. Oh, I don't want to keep you then. They'll probably be wondering where you are. No, it's fine. I can assure you the conversation was not groundbreaking, he replied, laughing. They chatted for a while. He did not notice how long he stayed out until Nnamdi came out. I'm gladly going home to my wife and dinner. She isn't working late today, and such moments are not to be taken for granted, especially as if the conversation was bad when you left. You have no idea to which level it has descended now. Hi, Gabrielle, he shouted at the phone, and Alex relayed her reply as he said goodbye to both of them, knowing he would have to stay to put his friends in taxis, as the probability of them having drunk too much was quite high. To stay up to date with my latest episodes, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications.